And it's very interesting because I myself am a metaphysical student, for lack of a better term, or philosopher, and I can't help but feel that one of the greatest, how shall we say, I don't know if we want to use the word debate or divisive ideas, is the idea of bridging spirituality and or divinity with science. And I feel that now that we are discovering this realm of quantum physics, or the quantum realm as we're discussing, that perhaps there is a chance to kind of erase that line, or at least blur it a little. What are your thoughts, Rupert, on the idea of perhaps quantum science to explain? You know, we talk about the God particle quite a bit in science. What are your hopes, and what have you seen?
Well, I think the main importance of quantum theory is that it's made us realize that matter is not stuff, like little billiard balls enduring stuff, but matter is a process. And an electron, an atom, and so forth are processes. They take time. If an electron is a wave, which it is, then it takes time for a wave to wave. You can't have an electron at an instant, nor can you have it at a particular point. I mean, think of a wave on the ocean, because it's the easiest way of our seeing waves directly. If you slice it down and you just have a tiny fraction of time and space, and you get a tiny little bit of a wave in a particular place at a particular time, you have no way of knowing what its wavelength is or anything about the wave. You have to let time elapse to know that a wave is a wave. And this means that matter is a process. That means it has a future and a past pole. And what's interesting about that is that the philosopher Alfred North Whitehead in the 1920s was the first serious philosopher to grasp the importance of quantum theory. And he realized the fact that even an electron has a future and a past gives us a new way of thinking about the relationship of mind and body. The mind is essentially the future pole, and the body is the past pole. Mostly people think of the relation of mind and body in terms of space, the inner life, the outer world, and so forth. But Whitehead said the relationship is in time. Even an electron has a future pole which consists of possibilities. The Schrödinger wave equation in quantum theory tells you all the possible things the electron could do. But when it interacts with something, it does one of those possible things and not the others. And when it's done it, you can measure it. Now it's now in the past, and you can find its physical being through this measurement. But now a whole realm of future possibility opens up. I think the reason this makes it easier to understand what the relationship of God to the universe might be is that God's mind, God's conscious mind, God is essentially to do with consciousness, as well as activity and movement and change and purpose. This shows us a way in which a kind of mental aspect exists even in the level of the electron. It certainly exists in our own minds. I think there's a mental aspect to all self-organizing systems, and that mental pole is the one that most clearly relates to the divine being. The standard scientific view of materialist science treats the entire universe and all matter as totally unconscious. And then some liberal materialists say, okay, well, if you want to have a designing intelligence at the beginning, you could have a God who frames the laws of nature and fine-tunes the constants and then pushes the start button for the Big Bang and then sort of retires. But that takes consciousness totally out of the universe. It becomes a kind of optional extra. Whereas if there's a kind of mental pole in all things at all levels of the universe, as quantum theory implies, and as modern ideas about consciousness throughout nature also support, then we have an interface with the world of consciousness and indeed the different aspects of consciousness in the universe all through. And the point about angels is that they are conscious beings. We don't just have to think in terms of a universe with living matter and evolving an evolving universe that relates simply to the divine mind, but one which has every level of consciousness in between God and the lowliest aspects of nature. And in traditional cosmologies, the kind that Matthew Fox and I discuss in this book, The Physics of Angels, there's this kind of levels of consciousness governing the universe at all levels, and that's why it's so relevant and interesting, I think, in the modern world.